April 5, 1943, 2:18 a.m. The Solomon Sea, south of Guadalcanal. The darkness is absolute. There is no moon, only the crushing, humid blackness of the tropics where the sky dissolves into the ocean. On the bridge of the USS O'Bannon, a Fletcher-class destroyer known to her crew as the Luckyo, the silence is vibrating. It is the hum of steam turbines holding steady at 20 knots. It is the sound of 80 men holding their breath. The radar operator in the Combat Information Center, CIC, stares at the green sweep of the scope. A blip. Solid. Metallic. Contact! He barks into the voice tube. Surface target. Range 7,000 yards. Closing fast. Commander Donald McDonald grips the railing of the bridge. He knows these waters are a graveyard. This is Ironbottom Sound, where dozens of warships lie rusting in the deep. He knows the enemy is out there. The Tokyo Express, the Japanese supply convoys, run these waters at night like clockwork. McDonald orders general quarters. The klaxon screams through the ship, shattering the sleep of 300 men. They tumble out of bunks, adrenaline spiking, racing to battle stations. They are tired. They are on edge. They expect a gunnery duel at 5 miles. They have no idea they are about to get into a fistfight. The distance collapses. 6,000 yards. 4,000. 2,000. Through the night glasses, the lookouts spot a shadow darker than the sea. It is a silhouette low in the water. A conning tower. A submarine. It is the Imperial Japanese Navy's RO-34, a Kaicha-type coastal submarine running on the surface to recharge its batteries. McDonald makes a split-second decision. Ram it. Rudder amidships. All ahead flank. The O'Bannon surges forward. The 2,000-ton destroyer becomes a steel arrow aimed directly at the submarine's flank. They are going to cut it in half. But as the bow of the destroyer looms over the submarine, a lookout screams a warning. It's a mine layer! Stern racks! Panic flashes through the bridge. If the destroyer rams a mine layer, the impact will detonate the mines and blow the bow off the American ship. They will kill the enemy, but they will kill themselves in the process. Hard left! McDonald screams. Hard left! The helmsman spins the wheel. The O'Bannon shudders, heeling violently to starboard as the rudder bites into the water. The ship drifts, momentum carrying it sideways. The two vessels miss each other by inches. But the maneuver has placed the O'Bannon in the worst possible tactical position. She is now coasting alongside the Japanese submarine, parallel, separated by less than 70 yards of water. This is the dead zone. The massive 5-inch guns of the destroyer are designed to kill ships miles away. They cannot depress low enough to hit a target sitting right next to the hull. The anti-aircraft guns are too high. The torpedoes can't arm at this short range. The O'Bannon is the most advanced destroyer in the U.S. Navy, armed with the latest radar and fire control computers. But right now, she is a toothless shark. On the deck of the RO-34, the Japanese are waking up. The hatch on the conning tower flies open. Japanese sailors spill out onto the wet deck. They are confused, blinded by the sudden appearance of the massive American ship towering over them. But they recover instantly. They run toward their own weapon, a 3-inch deck gun mounted forward of the tower. If they can man that gun, they can punch a hole straight through the O'Bannon's thin hull. At this range, they can't miss. They can massacre the American bridge crew, destroy the engines, and sink the destroyer before it can pull away. On the deck of the O'Bannon, the American sailors stare down in horror. They are unarmed. They are deckhands, lookouts, and loaders. They have no rifles. They have no grenades. They watch as the Japanese sailors frantically spin the hand wheels of their deck gun, swinging the barrel toward the O'Bannon's bridge. The Americans have seconds to live. They need a weapon. Any weapon. And then, a young sailor looks down at a storage bin lashed to the railing near the galley. It isn't an ammo locker. It's the vegetable store. It is a moment of pure, unadulterated absurdity that should only exist in a cartoon. But in the terrifying vacuum of the Solomon Sea at 2 a.m., it is the only option left on the table. The locker on the deck is filled with Idaho potatoes. Hundreds of them. Brown, lumpy, and hard as rocks. A sailor screams, "Throw them!" It is an instinctual reaction. When you are cornered, when you are unarmed, you throw whatever you can find. The American deckhands dive into the bins. They grab handfuls of spuds. They rush to the railing, leaning out over the black water, and hurl them with the desperate strength of men pitching for their lives. On the deck of the Japanese submarine, the scene turns into a psychological nightmare. You have to put yourself inside the head of a Japanese sailor on the RO-34. You have just been woken up by a collision alarm. You have scrambled up a ladder into the pitch blackness. Your eyes haven't adjusted. The air is filled with the roar of the American destroyer's engines, drowning out all other sound. Suddenly, objects start raining down on you. They are heavy. They hit the steel deck with a solid, metallic thud. They bounce. They roll. In the dark, a potato looks exactly like a Mark II fragmentation grenade. It feels like a grenade. It sounds like a grenade. The human brain, under the influence of extreme cortisol and adrenaline, does not stop to analyze the texture of the projectile. It recognizes a pattern. Small round object thrown by enemy equals death. The Japanese gun crew at the 3-inch deck gun freezes. They look at the objects rolling around their feet. They don't see dinner. They see fuses burning down. Panic, primal and overriding, seizes them. Instead of loading the cannon that could sink the O'Bannon, the Japanese sailors drop their shells. They scramble around the wet deck, frantically picking up the potatoes and throwing them overboard. They are kicking them into the sea. They are diving for cover behind the conning tower, curling into balls, waiting for the explosions that never come. On the American side, the firefight is intense. The sailors are shouting, calling targets. Get that one by the hatch! Hit the guy on the gun! It is a barrage of carbohydrates. Potatoes smash against the submarine's hull. One hits a Japanese officer in the chest. Another clangs off the steel of the deck gun. For 30 seconds, the most technologically advanced destroyer in the Pacific Fleet is defended not by its radar-guided artillery, but by the ship's cook's inventory. This is the fog of war in its purest form. It is a shared hallucination. The Americans are throwing vegetables hoping to buy a second of time. The Japanese are reacting to a phantom threat, convinced they are standing in a minefield of unexploded ordnance. Up on the bridge, Commander McDonald doesn't have time to appreciate the absurdity. He sees the Japanese gun crew scatter. He sees the hesitation. This is his window. Right full rudder. McDonald bellows. Get us clear! The O'Bannon leans into the turn. The propellers bite the water, churning up a massive white wake that washes over the submarine's deck, adding to the chaos below. The destroyer begins to pull away, widening the gap. 70 yards. 100 yards. 200 yards. On the submarine, the Japanese commander finally realizes the ruse. The grenades aren't exploding. The Americans are running. He screams at his men to get back to the gun. He orders a crash dive. He knows that once that destroyer gets beyond 500 yards, the game changes. The O'Bannon will no longer be a helpless giant. She will be a killer. The Japanese sailors scramble back to the 3-inch gun. They traverse the barrel, aiming at the retreating fantail of the American ship. They load a shell. But it is too late. McDonald watches the range indicator in the CIC. The distance is opening. The dead zone is gone. He is back in the killing ground. He grabs the radio handset connecting him to the gunnery officer. His voice is cold, stripped of the panic of the last few minutes. "All batteries," McDonald says. "Commence firing." April 5, 1943, 2:25 a.m. The O'Bannon is now 400 yards away. The silence of the potato fight is replaced by the mechanical thunder of the destroyer's main battery. 5 5-inch guns, controlled by the Mark 37 Fire Control Director, swivel in unison. They are no longer blind. They have the range. They have the solution. Crack boom. The salvo leaves the barrels at 2,600 feet per second. The shells bridge the gap in less than a second. The first round hits the RO-34 directly at the base of the conning tower. The explosion is catastrophic. The pressure hull ruptures. The submarine, which had just begun to slip beneath the waves in a desperate crash dive, is blown back to the surface. It lifts heavily to the side, oil spewing from its cracked tanks. The Japanese sailors who were throwing the potatoes overboard are gone, vaporized in the flash. The submarine is no longer a fighting vessel. It is a broken metal tube rolling in the swell. But McDonald isn't taking chances. He orders the ship to come about. He wants to make sure. The O'Bannon steams directly over the spot where the submarine went down. As she passes over the turbulence, depth charges roll off the stern racks. Whump, whump, whump. The ocean heaves. Massive domes of white water rise from the deep, lifting the destroyer's stern. Below the surface, the shockwaves hammer the RO-34, crushing what is left of the hull into scrap metal. When the water settles, there is nothing left but an oil slick and debris. The RO-34 is gone. All 66 hands are lost. On the bridge of the O'Bannon, the adrenaline crash hits the crew. Men look at each other, wide-eyed, chests heaving. They look at the empty potato bins on the deck. They look at the darkness where the enemy used to be. They start to laugh. It starts as a nervous chuckle from a deckhand, then spreads to the gun crews, and finally reaches the bridge. It is the laughter of men who have cheated the Reaper with a magic trick. They had gone into battle with $1 billion of technology and won it with a sack of spuds. June 1943. Pearl Harbor, Hawaii. News travels fast in the Navy, but legends travel faster. By the time the O'Bannon returns to port for refitting, the story has mutated. It has been told in bars in Honolulu, whispered in the mess halls of battleships, and printed in newspapers back home. The potato incident becomes a sensation. A Potato Growers Association in Maine hears the story. They send a commemorative plaque to the ship. It is a bronze relief of a potato, mounted on a piece of polished wood. They propose a citation for the crew, for ingenuity in the face of the enemy. But Commander McDonald, ever the professional, tries to downplay it. In his official action report, he writes dryly about ranges and bearings. He mentions emergency measures. He doesn't want his career defined by a food fight. But he cannot stop the legend. The USS O'Bannon becomes the most decorated destroyer of World War II. She earned 17 battle stars. She survives the war without a single crewman killed in action, a statistical miracle that earns her the nickname, the Lucky O. But to the sailors of the Pacific Fleet, she has another name. They call her the Spud Ship. The story of the RO-34 is often told as a funny anecdote, a quirk of history. But if you strip away the humor, it reveals a profound truth about the nature of combat. War is not just about the biggest gun or the thickest armor. It is about the mind. The Japanese commander of the RO-34 was a trained professional. He had a deck gun that could have destroyed his enemy. He had the advantage of position. He had the element of surprise. But he lost because for 10 critical seconds, his brain betrayed him. He saw what he expected to see, a grenade, instead of what was actually there. The Americans didn't win because they had better weapons. They won because, in the moment of absolute terror, when the technology failed and the plan disintegrated, they didn't freeze. They improvised. They threw the kitchen sink, or in this case, the pantry, at the problem. And somewhere at the bottom of Ironbottom Sound, amidst the rusting hulks of the greatest naval war in history, lie the remnants of a submarine that surrendered to a vegetable.